Okay, we'll go right into where we left off. And we left off with the Wa'unchara, which is the monkey. In Lakota, we say Wa'aiucha. It means copying people. And it's a mimicker. It mimics whatever we do as humans. When it sees us, it tries to do the same thing. So they're quite humorous, some of them. So then the next one is uh, Shunkala. Those stars means it's a guttural sound. Chachcha Shunkala. And that's the sheep. And of course, Chachcha is the deer. And Tchatchokala is a goat. And Shkishka. Shkishka is a wood duck. And that's the wood duck has red eyes. One of the Iktomi stories tells about the wood duck, where he sings and he wants the little ducks to dance around him, and so he starts singing, and he has the little ducks close their eyes, and while he's singing, he was bonging them on the head and putting them in his bag, and one of them peeked out, but Iktomi said, "When you dance around me, don't open your eyes, or they'll turn red." But one of them opened her eyes, and he said, "Run, run, he's hitting us, run." So they all ran and they went back to their pond, and they started to cry because their cousins were in that bag. About 5 of them he got. They were moving around in that bag. So those little shkishka, the wood ducks started crying, they got red eyes. So that's how Iktomi, he said, "Don't open your eyes or they'll turn red." But they did. And ever since then, the wood ducks have red eyes. So that's the story of Iktomi, how he captured the 5 little ducks by tricking them. Maga is a duck, and Magaksicha is a goose. A bat is Chupakigalake. Chupakigalake. And the chupa is short for a chupahu. Kigalake is they bundled up and they hang upside down. Chupakigalake. And well, when it's nighttime, they open up and they start flying all over. So that's a chupakigalake. And it unwinds, and when it's nighttime, it's a kigalake. Nagalaye. Nagala means to open up. Kigalake is his own wings open up. Chupakigalake. Chupahu is the wings. But chupa is shortened to make a noun. Clipping. They clip. Chupahu. Belecha is a pelican. Belecha. Notice all the Cha words, Maga, Magaksicha, Belecha, they have to do with water. That Cha. I think we went through that before about all the water words, including the Wachanga, the sweet grass, and Wagacha, the cottonwood tree. These are all Cha. And Magazu and Chacha, spit, Chercha, the bucket, Chacha, the ice. So we have all of those Cha words for water. The root word, Cha. We had those before. the root words. Chankatotola is a woodpecker. Uh, Chetan Shala is a woodpecker too, and that one has uh, a red hair on top. Uh, Chetan Shala, it's a red on top. And there's another red-headed woodpecker. We call it Waganuka Pchesha. Waganuka Pchesha. That's actually the ones that are on the prairies, on the reservations. That's the one we see, the Waganuka Pchesha, a red-headed woodpecker. And then there's another one, Toskala, the hairy woodpecker. There's all kinds of different kinds of woodpeckers. And so they listed them right here. Hiha is an owl. It's Hunchna Chichala. Hunchna Chichala is a small owl. Hunchna Chichala is they go. That's how. That's why when women say that's that's what the women do. That's that sound. So if somebody says where the woman says, that means make that sound to honor that person. So that's what that is all about. So we use the sound of the little small owl, the trill sound, to honor a song or something that's beautiful. Some women, when they get a gift, they say, le, 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 le. And they go get their gift. Khopotka is a screech owl. Khopotka. You didn't know such different kinds of owls, but now you do. And Wanagila is a hummingbird. Wanagila actually means little spirit. Isn't that a beautiful name? A little spirit that goes around and propagates the flowers with its little nose, makes the flowers, it livens up the pollen. It scatters the pollen so that the seeds could distribute and helps the flower grow, the plant grow. So they're really helpful in the environment. Same as a honeybee. Same thing. The honeybee goes around livening up the flowers and taking the sap and redistributing the pollen. You know, this is a whole circle of life that goes on that we don't even consider as being a whole experience. You know, but once you start thinking about how we share this land with insects and with a hummingbird, a bird, and the deer are redistributing the cherries and different kinds of berries. They eat it and swallow it, and when they go doo-doo someplace way out in a willy whack, they leave the seeds. So next, that's going to grow right there. Sometime in the future, there'll be choke cherries wherever the deer went. And so that's really important that there's a redistribution of seeds. Now, seeds like choke cherries, they need a trauma to break open. And that's the ice cold winter when the seeds crack because it's so cold. And and they crack, and then the seed could lay plant on the ground. So it might take a while before the seed would break open. Sometimes it takes a long time. You know those the uh, the nuts in California. the 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 ones that grow on the tree, when they fall to the ground, those nuts there, uh, they have to have a fire to break those seeds open. So they have to sometimes wait for a long time to have the seeds to break open, or maybe by extreme heat or something they break open, and so they could be able to redistribute their seed. And so that's how the continuance of reintroduce pine too. Those pine trees, those little round uh, pine uh, cones, they have to have a fire too to be able to break open and replant itself. So sometimes, with the help of fire, a trauma, it starts to grow again. All the necessary trees that need to anchor themselves by breaking them open with the forest fire, and hopefully just by natural processes of heat, and somehow to make the seeds reach out and break open, and so those things, it's hard to say, but some things need trauma to start growing again. And so in California, a long time ago, there's Degania and different tribes over there, uh, Morongo, and different tribes over there. They used to have controlled fires underneath the oak trees, and to be able to make the nuts fall down, and they have the controlled burning to help the seeds break. So they had controlled burning of the where the trees grow underneath. You have to watch them, fire so it doesn't get out of control. So they knew how to control their ground fire to help the seeds to break. So they have a new uh, outcrop of the trees that carry the nuts over there. And so uh, some of the things that were the environmental conscious people did to be able to continue the growth of the plants. Okay, then we go Hiha is the owl, and Mukhnagachala, Popotka, Vanagila. Manka is the skunk. Manka. Kea is the snapping turtle. Kea. Then we have Pchatkasha is the turtle. They call him the painter. They kind of have orange swirls underneath and orange around their neck. They're the ones that lay in the pond and peek out their little head. You see little turtles peeking out of the water in the pond. Those are those painters, or the ones called Pchatkasha. Agaleshka is a lizard. Agaleshka is a lizard. And Hitchunkasan is a weasel. Hitchunkasan. Uh, because you say Hitchunkasan, kasan means it turns white. Hitchunkasan. It's brown in the summer, but in the winter it becomes sun, kind of a whitish, tan white color. That's the sun part. Hitchunkasan, the weasel. It's brown in the summer, and in the winter it becomes a ermine. Ermine when it turns white. Okay. Hitchunkala is a mouse. Hitchunkala. Okay. Bispiza, a prairie dog. Bispiza. We know that one, right? Especially in Rosebud. And Badland, towards the Badlands, towards Red Shirt Table. Oh, there's a whole bunch of prairie dogs. So there's a city. It's a metropolis over there. There's uh, so many prairie dogs over there. Porcupine by Glen Homans, behind Glen Homans. There's a prairie dog town right there. Uh, then by Dave Badgers across the road from there, more towards the hills, there's another prairie dog town over there. So here and there, the prairie dogs established their territories. And they live like families. They have strong kinship type of being. Hetakuyuta hai. Each one of those, you could ask that question. And if it eats grass, like the sheep or the deer, different animals they eat. Preji. He prejiyute. He watutkayute. That one eats insects. Okay. Like the woodpecker. Let's come at pounds to find the insects or the beings that live in wood. They peck it and pull out the food that's inside the tree. Little bugs and different types of food. Hetchaloyute, that one eats meat. So you pick out all the ones that eat meat on here. One of them will probably be the coyote, Shumanitu Chanka. And let's see, the meat eaters. Cattle? Oh, not cattle. Dog, fox, coyote, wolf. They're meat eaters. Let's see, all the way down. Well, those are probably the only ones up on top. They're the meat eaters. Yeah. The rest, horse and sheep, deer, goat. They're like more off the weeds, plants. That's what they like to eat. They kind of graze. They graze. So, yeah, I think the weasel would be these small rodents. And the mice, I think they eat more like grains and different weeds, seeds. A prairie dog eats mostly roots. So you have to have respect for them because they help to aerate the land. But there's a large spaces where they would eat up all the weeds, take all the weeds, the roots and stuff. So you see a depletion of the weeds. Daku Yuhayute, he eats everything. That'd probably be the bear. The bear eats seeds and it eats honey, eats insects and fish, meat, berries, roots. The bear eats everything. So that one you'd say, Hetaku Yuhayute. He eats everything. Yeah. Probably to sustain himself because they go into hibernation, so they need all kinds of minerals and vitamins and everything to help it through the winter. So they eat many different things to gain their bodily health as they're sleeping. Hetuktel where does that live? A bear lives in a den. Washo. We had that word, washo. Remember that one? Yeah, washo. Hetuktel. Where's a horse live? Oshungo nashi. In a barn. What about where does the cow live? Same thing out on the range or sometimes in a barn. The buffalo mostly out on the range. They stay out on the range in winter and summer and spring. They're outside. And cattle, same thing. Sometimes they bring them in, when it's really, really terrible. Sometimes they bring some of them into the barn. The ones that is selective. They select which ones could be in the barn. So the prize bulls, things like that, they go in a barn. Where would the ox live? Out on a prairie. What about a dog? A dog could live outside in a dog home or, out wild dogs out in the forest and out on the flatlands. In Mexico, they have the hairless dogs that live in the mountains and they run hot. That's why they're hairless. They run about 20 degrees hotter than all the other dogs. I have one more left. I used to have four hairless dogs, but we just have shadow left of all my hairless dogs. The other ones, little by little, they went to the spirit world. And so, but they have sisters and brothers and cousins throughout the uh, around Vermilion, Omaha, Cedar Rapids. Some of our dogs, we gave them away, so their blood is probably still being distributed. The hairless dogs, we just only have one left, and so we treasure little Shadow, and he's a male boy. We could probably have him have children if we find another hairless dog that could be mommy and daddy, the two hairless dogs. But he could probably be together with a Chihuahua and still have some hairless dogs with a Chihuahua. And, if a hairless dog has children and the hairless dog created some with hair on it, uh, they call them powder puffs because the hair is so soft. The hairless descendants, the Chihuahuas that are part from a hairless father, their hair is so soft. So they call them powder puff Chihuahua. Then you'll know its dad was a hairless dog. That's how you determine. Okay. Hetuktel tie, about the skunk, probably in a washon, right? Washon, inside of a cave, a den, a little uh, place in the side of a little embankment, and they burrow into the embankment and have a home. That would be well, Shongila. They live in dens too. The fox, they live in dens and stay warm in the winter. And so, what about the Shungmani to the coyote? They live in dens too. They dig out dens and the wolves too. How about a Shunshunla? Out on the prairie, sometimes in a barn. They stay in barn. Shunkawakunki to kill Tia. Where does the horse live? In a barn or out on the prairie. There was a girl who came from the east, New Jersey. She went to USD and she wanted to be around the horses. She came out west to be around animals like sheep and horses. So my brother-in-law, who has a ranch uh, north of Vermilion, uh, she wanted to be close to horses and work. So he hired her, and in the winter she asked him, she says, aren't we going to buy coats for those horses? Don't they get cold in the winter? And my brother-in-law says, they're just horses. They're just horses. They stay out all season. And that girl from the east said, you mean you don't put coats on them? No, they don't. We don't put no coats on them. They're horses. It was hard to explain to her that, but horses really, they grow longer fur in the winter. They grow longer fur so that they stay warm. The horses. Igamo, wildcats, they're outside in the barn, or you find different places where to stay underneath sheds. They find a place to stay at. Wild ones. We got wild ones right here in my little town, Utica. We got a lot of wild cats around here, and they find a place to stay. There used to be an old trailer house down over there by the highway, and they made that a home. Somebody moved away, and there's a window that's broken, so they all get in through there and stay inside, or underneath too, underneath the trailer house. They stay over there. A lot of little babies were born out of that little trailer house there, and you start seeing them move around. They roam around town when they get strong enough to roam around. There's two of them that come to eat outside. A little white one with a black tail and a pure black one. They're little kitties. And now they're able to eat, so they come over here because we feed outside. We feed the outside cats. We have outside cats that we maintain outside. We put water out for them, feed them. I sit with them in the evenings. I sit with them so that they get used to us as their family too. So I sit outside and visit them, and I feed them good stuff. I get good canned cat food for them. Open some cans, and what they like to grumble. We call regular granulated cat food. We call them grumble. So they have that too. And so where does how about the Menajat, the mountain lion? Oh, they probably live in dens too, up in the mountains. Mountain lion. And no, I don't have it on here, but Igamugalazilla, it's a bobcat. I don't have it written on here, but I think I have it someplace else. Igamugalazilla is a bobcat. And so it have different places where they live. The monkeys, of course, they're forest. They have nice homes, right? They have forest and it's warm, so they don't have to worry about no winter. So then we have the Kasha Shinkala, the sheep. Oh, mostly outside, not on the prairies. Sometimes you put them in a corral, have a lean-to or windbreaks for them. They're really sensitive, the sheep, and they could die real easy. One time, somebody dropped a bale down where the sheep were eating on the edge of the haystack. Somebody dropped a bale and just, you know, hit one of the sheep on the head. Not really hard, just nicked it, and that sheep died. So they're really sensitive. They die real easy. So you don't want to drop a bale. It'll die right away. Whereas other animals, shake it off, in Kaksha, of course, in the wooded areas, the windbreaks. Goat, probably same thing. A wood duck, maga, ashkishka. They live in water resource places. And, they probably stay in the weeds. Stay in the weeds to keep warm. Shtishka. Maga, same thing. Maga, mostly they migrate to warmer places. Magaksichatu, the goose, they migrate to warmer spots and places. You see the Keha make a journey all the way to South America. And then they come back and north again in the spring. You see them fly in a V shape. Those are the Keha. Uh, they stay in the water, edges of the water, kind of in a marsh and the grassy areas on the edges of the ponds. And that's where they have their eggs. And so they raise their children right there along the edge of the pond. You train the little ones to swim and at a certain age hunt for themselves. So there's the little ducks. Flies are starting to come in. Got myself some fly swatters. They start to come in the fall, kind of around now before winter. They start to migrate in. Where do the kea live? In the water, on the edge. And some of them, they burrow in alongside the banks, inside the water. They burrow in and they migrate. I mean, they hibernate too. A lot of turtles hibernate in the winter in the sides of the ponds, and lakes, and the rivers. Katkasha, they live in the water. They're the ones that peek out of the pond, peeking out. Heat, yeah. Heat kunkasa. I saw them burrow into the land like same as with prairie dogs. Yeah, they have a little place where they make a home. Sometimes in the hollow of trees. They find a place to stay warm in the winter. They're resourceful. They know how to live. Lizard, of course, they find warm spots too. Lizards stay in some of the stones that are gathered together here and there. You see lizards there finding a home, burrowing in beneath the stones on the prairies. Yeah. Uh, so those are the different places of the animals where they live. They make homes for themselves and be able to, uh, close to their place of their shopping centers. The turtle, of course, they live. Okay, Tuktil Tihe. Where does he or she live? Makama Helti. He lives in the ground. That would be like a pispiza. Or that weasel, the fox. They're living inside the earth. So there, so it said Makama Helti. Chama Helti. They live in the woods like a squirrel. They actually find a knot in a tree, and they're probably happy when there's a rotten tree. It looks good on the outside, but if it's rotting and then there's a knot, they could dig in easier because the inside, the rotted parts are easier to then dig and throw out the inside of the wood and the inside, the rotted part, to make nests inside. We have one right over there. We left that standing because squirrels live there. We took a lot of our big trees out, but that one we left it standing, a huge tree. We didn't chop that one down. We just took out the limbs that would possibly fall on our home. So we took out all the limbs that were threatening, but we left most of the tree because there's a knot there. Two places there's knots on that tree where the squirrels live. So we didn't want to take her home. So we left one tree standing, but we took the limbs out. Huge tree. Well, we took the big limbs out, and still a good looking tree, but the limbs are not overhanging towards our home anymore. Big winds, they could, break and fall on our home. So we kind of uh, pruned them off, take the big limbs out. But we left the tree, of course, then for the squirrels to live in. So we're kind of conscientious like that. We don't want to take somebody's home. We don't want to take their home. And so in that case, we left that tree standing. And Uncle T, they live on the tree. Most birds in the spring, they put their nest on the tree. Uncle T. Okay, they live on the tree. Uncle T. Mahel T. They live in the grasses. That would be like mice and some of the grouse, pheasants, different birds. They live on the ground in the weeds. I always find little nests here and there in the weeds where the birds built their nest. Probably ducks too, in the weeds. They build their nests where to raise their little babies. Mahel T, they live in the weeds. Mini Mahel T, they live in the water. Yeah, that would be like a beaver and muskrat, the patkasha, the turtle, and the kea, the snapping turtle, and many mahel T, they lived in the water, accustomed to living in the water, or along the edge of the water too. Doesn't have to be in the water, but close to the resources. Some of the ones that are really shoppers are the Wichitegalega, the the ones that have a mask around here, like Zorro, uh, raccoons. Yeah, they shop all over the place, and around here, you see a majority of them. I don't know why, but they like to run across the highway when the cars is coming, and they get run over. By this time, this generation, they should know that don't run in the front of a car. I saw some little, two or three little of the ground squirrels. They used to run across it and get run over. But this next little generation, I saw them run out and the cars go, they turn around and run back into the weeds again. So those ones are getting wise. That's kind of studying them, right over there, close to the ponds. There's a place where there's some taller cat cattails and things, and some little ground squirrels. They run out of there to cross the road. But if they see me coming, or other people driving a car, now they come out and turn around and run back in. Used to, they try to make it across, and then some don't make it. Splat, you see a little flattened out little ground squirrel. Skunks, they get run over all the time, seem like. I don't know why people run over them. Seem like you could dodge them. You could turn away. Maybe they come out too fast or something. All of a sudden they're out there, and then your headlights, it's the skunk, and it's too late. Bam. I had a friend who ran into a raccoon. Oh, she felt so bad. She said, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. he ran across and I couldn't hit my brakes in time. It wasn't my fault. Just really took it personal that she killed a poor raccoon. And she's probably thinking, now the little ones are going to say, where's our mommy? Where's our mommy? Oh, she felt so bad. I said, they tend to not consider, that there's danger. They're probably really trusting that you would dodge them. But a lot of people don't even see them. It's too late. And deer, too. It's too late. There they are. You know, when I was going blind, when I was getting my cataracts, I used to run into deer. I used to run into deer, and so when I got my LASIK, I got my uh, the the cataract scraped, and now I'm 20/20 vision. So at night I could see the deer way over the reflection in their eyes. I could see it way ahead of time now. So I don't run into deer no more. I kind of conscious of scanning all the time when I'm driving at night. And my eyes are 20/20, and at night it's even clearer, my eyes. So I like to drive at night because it's clearer, my eyes. Because if you have LASIK, it means the sunlight or the light outside. I always have to have sunglasses on, because it's too bright. So I have to have sunglasses on in the daytime to drive. But in the nighttime, everything's so clear. It's a clear uh, sight as I'm driving. It's nice and clear in the nighttime. Before it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that before. Yeah. So just to let you know, some of the animals they don't consider. There's a light coming. I better get out of the way. Uh, Chiefy Chimahelti, they live inside of homes or houses. Yeah, we adopt cats and dogs. And my sister, one time she had what do you call it? A, it's kind of like a weasel, but they don't call it a weasel. Similar to them. Now I forgot what they call it. Anyway, they're long like that too. She had it for a pet, and it started to act like a pet. It learns where to eat and learn to go to a newspaper to go to the bathroom on it. She's really taming it really well. That little animal that she had that looked like a weasel. So that's about all I have for today. Some of the animals live in Quesapa or the Wakpala, the valleys, Baja, on top of hills, so they can look far away. Shkokpa, in the valleys, Shkokpa, there's a whole bunch of birds and animals at a valley called Shkokpa. That's at Yellow Bear Canyon, going from Kaya to Allen. There's a beautiful valley, and I think if there was ever a Lakota Garden of Eden, that would be it. They got in the spring there are all kinds of birds that come back there. It's just a musical sounding whole valley of different birds singing, and oh, there's a lot of deer down there because there's a river that runs through there, and so they have water. They have many different types of animals down there, bobcats and the raccoons. And it's rich with all kinds of. I think there's some beaver down there too. That further down the line. And so The beaver is the ones that brings the wetlands back to help grasses grow and other animals to be able to live there, and waterfowl, ducks and different things. So the beaver is pretty handy at creating homes for a lot of animals and birds and even the dragonflies. Oh, it's a beautiful valley. You ought to drive through there in the spring one of these days. The Yellow Bear Canyon, or Skokpa, we say in Lakota. There's a wonderful place to be. How about the Makoshicha, the Badlands? Who wants to live out there, right? We see turtles out there, out on the Badlands, but there's White River running through there, so they could probably have a water source. There's springs out there too. In the Badlands, there's springs out there. If you know where to go to look, you can find a spring, fresh, ice cold water. Yeah, Makoshicha. You have to know where to look to get those. Osmaka, the cliffs. A lot of animals lives along the cliffs. They burrow and make in little holes in the earth and live alongside the cliffs up there. The mountain goats, they love the cliffs. And they climb straight up, you know. Uh, Manitu, Manila, um, uh, in the wilderness. That's where the coyote got its name, Shungamanitu, and the wolf, Shungamanitu Tkanka. I'm going to stop right there. Thank you very much for listening today. Thanks for your visit.